I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're stepping into a deeply moving story of redemption, faith, and the power of human connection. The name of the book, Blessed Memorial. It's written by a terrific author. His name is Paul Martin. The story follows retiree Thomas Strongtree as he embarks on an unexpected journey revisiting the lives of former juvenile detainees and uncovering stories of transformation. If you're drawn to narratives of second chances and the profound impact of faith, this book is a must-read. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Paul, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Logan.
It's
Great.
my pleasure. This story feels very real. It almost could be nonfiction, but it's fiction. Is it based on real life experiences or reality at all?
Absolutely, it is. And I do make a point of saying that it is fiction. But what really thrills me is people like yourself, men like yourself, who have called me and said that it really means something to them. It's touched them in some sort of a way, which was a surprise. I didn't expect that originally. It's the book that I would like to read. It's the book that I would like to hear on my Audible, and I went ahead and wrote it. I can tell you, I'll give you kind of the synopsis that I talk about book signings and whatnot. A little over a dozen years ago, I bought a pack of police arrest records at a flea market. And I thought a lot about these records. They're not complete records. They're called jail booking cards, which don't say much about the how or why of the arrest. They show fingerprints and personal information, typed or handwritten into spaces provided. Mugshot photos are stapled on. The cards I bought document 30 young people, male and female, arrested over a 20-year span from the mid-1970s to the 1990s. I thought a lot about these young people. They'd be adults by now, and I wanted to meet them. I wondered what they'd remember about being arrested and how contact with the law at a young age affected the rest of their lives. I ran all this past a friend of mine who's a criminal defense attorney, and he thought the idea was extraordinarily dangerous. He said, "You're playing with lives. If any of those kids found a place in society as a public figure, they could haul you into court and you'd be looking at a world of hurt for the rest of your life." So I put my police cards away on a bookshelf, but I couldn't forget them. I took them off the shelf a few years later, but again, I was waved off the project. Now, I am a Catholic guy, and this time around, I took it to God. I asked the Holy Spirit, why do I keep thinking about these people from the police cards? What do you want me to know? And what do you want me to do about it? The answer came back, listen, Paul, you don't have to find those kids. You already know them. Think of the people you've met in your life and what they told you. Use your imagination, change their names, location, and circumstances, but remember their truths. Weave them into a novel. Hang the plot from the police cards. Use the parables and lessons of the gospel as subtext. Conflicts will arise as their spirits wrestle with their souls, culture, and the law. Resolution will come as they afford dignity, accept grace, and recognize their interdependence on others. They'll find peace as they embrace the paradoxical nature of their humanity and admit God exists.
Wow. Very, very powerful stuff. You had me mesmerized there for a moment. Wonderful, wonderful. That really is great. That all of it starting with a manila envelope like that, and you're curious about these people's lives and your conversation with the Holy Spirit about just inventing those lives because you can kind of deduce their stories, I think is really amazing. The book explores themes of redemption and transformation. Tell us how these themes reflect your own personal beliefs and experiences. I know you mentioned you're Catholic. Perhaps that is echoed there as well.
Um, I they're all essentially real stories that I remember hearing over the people that I've met, people that I've heard about, stories of redemption that I'm just always I'm, I love that kind of stuff. I
Mm.
remember it, and I put it into the novel as if these were remembered. In many cases, I changed their locations. In some cases, they were men. I changed them to women. In some cases, they were women. I changed them to men.
Mhm.
They're completely disguised. You'd never guess who these kids really are. And I made a point of keeping it all. Uh, it's all secret, and I believe in the youthful offender. And Thomas Strongtree in the novel makes a big point about keeping the identities silent and quiet and hidden. Um, in some ways, his major motivation is how did these police cards wind up at a flea market? That's a
Mhm.
public place. It doesn't make any sense that people's lives should be on sale at a card table in a flea market. And
Yeah.
he was a little upset with that, and he wants to kind of find out who did that and why is it? How did that happen? And as the at each one of the interviews, each one of the people that he meets adds another piece to an unfolding story. And that goes over the arc of the novel until eventually it's explained.
Mm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Have you envisioned this as a film?
Oh, sure. The final the final scene between two of the major characters, I saw in my head as a scene between Barbara Stanwyck and Martin Sheen. I thought that they would look very good at this machine, and I said, oh, I could write that. And how would that go? What would that sound like? And
Yeah.
so I just went in. And that's kind of how it is. Yes, it's very visual. Uh,
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Eugene O'Neill. One of my favorite ones is Our Town Play. I love that kind of stuff. Maybe
Mm.
I'm in writing. I'm kind of the Norman Rockwell of,
Yeah.
of short stories and novels. I like that kind of basic stuff with a little bit of humanity in it. And so
A-
yeah, it's pretty visual. Let's do that.
Absolutely. Tell us how your work as a third order Franciscan has influenced your work.
St. Francis made a big point about saying that God had come to humanity. I was let's use the date 1200. And before 1200, that was around the time of St. Francis. Before that, people put God in the sky. He was a magical figure. You might try to placate him. He was full of thunder and all the rest of it. And St. Francis brought it, said, no, no, God has been incarnated. He was actually, St. Francis is the one who brought us the manger. And at Christmas time, you see the mangers. It was that the belief that Jesus has come to the world and he is a human and has human characteristics and participated as a human. That's very important, and it's important to me. I see a little bit of God in everybody,
Mhm.
and I believe that the world would be a better place if we all saw a little bit of God in everybody and treated each other as in that. And Thomas Strongtree does. He goes
Mhm.
around to meet these kids that they did something wrong, but they eventually had lives, and he tries to see how their lives developed and how their mistakes as young people actually helped define their lives and point them in correct directions.
Mm. Very, very intriguing. Did you ever Google any of the guys that are in your arrest cards
Well,
just to
I
see
gotta
if you could
say,
figure it out?
yeah, that's part of the first chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried. I thought about it. but the absolute truth of the matter is I'm not especially good with that kind of stuff. I'm
Yeah.
somewhat limited in the technology, so I wasn't able to make my way through it. However, I ran into several investigators who said, "Oh yeah, we could find them. Yeah,
Yeah.
no trouble at all." And that's kind of where I went into trouble. So the first chapter describes some of my attempts to find the kids, and then also uh, why I'd better not.
Yeah. Very, very, very intriguing indeed. What do you hope readers take away from Thomas Strongtree's quest and the people he reconnects with?
Well, as I said before, it's it's the novel that I wanted to read, and so I wrote it. I think, from what I've heard, people are inspired by the activities of a lot of the different characters. I think they should see joy in their lives, feel feel the wonder of their lives, and how we're all interconnected, and how there really aren't any big problems that we can't overcome. And oftentimes our problems are our salvation. They're what make our lives worthwhile.
Yeah. Why is the book called Blessed Memorial?
Well, I was looking for a title. I had originally called it The Caught 30, which was kind of a play on Catch 22. And I thought that would be good. And then I was reading an interview with Ernest Hemingway, and he said all of the good titles in the Bible are taken. And with all due respects to Papa, I had an idea that I could find some title in the Bible that had something or other to do with my story that might be a good title. And sure enough, I did. It's from one of the Proverbs. It's a Proverbs 7, and we don't need any more, commemorative monuments with marble columns. A good and honest life is a blessed memorial.
Wonderful.
I, I,
Wonderful.
I like that.
I like that too. And great words to close on. The name of the book is Blessed Memorial. It follows retiree Thomas Strongtree as he embarks on an unexpected journey, revisiting the lives of former juvenile detainees and uncovering stories of transformation. If you're drawn to narratives of second chances and the profound impact of faith, this book is a must read. Paul, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Logan.
My pleasure, sir. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.